What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Table That Discussion, a Fantasy Alarm TV exclusive roundtable that covers the controversial and hot button topics around sports, both fantasy and reality. I'm your host, Howard Bender. And of course, I'll chime in with my thoughts from time and opinions from time to time, but we got a great panel again tonight, and you need to hear what these guys all have to say. Now, while we know this is all about feeding you baby birds the knowledge you need and crave to grow, well, we like to have a little fun here and turn this into a competition of our own. That's right. If one of my analysts here starts spitting some heat, well, he's going to get credit for a 5-alarm fire, 4-alarm fire, and so forth there. Here's what happens when they accumulate their fire alarms. Well, the winner at the end of each tabled discussion then gets to start off with his opinions the next time. So without further ado, let's get right to it here and meet our analyst for tonight. First off, you guys know him, you love him. He's neither tall nor dark, but he is definitely handsome. He's also the managing editor of Fantasy Alarm. His name's John Impemba. What's going on, John? Welcome in.
Howard, those are probably the nicest things you've ever said about me. Feel pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, man. I'm super excited to get this on the ground. You guys all seem pretty heated and ready to go for some debate. So let's keep meeting the rest of the crew here. James Grande, your right-hand man. He's your partner in crime in the NBA DFS world. James, what's going on, man? How are you tonight?
I'm feeling good. I'm ready to be the first back-to-back champion of Table That Discussion. So let's get into it, Howard.
All right. Did you bring a bat to flip later on?
No, Tim Anderson has all of mine currently.
All right, next panelist here, Matt Sells, everybody. He's the 2018 FSWA Racing Writer of the Year. He does all sorts of delicious things, both NASCAR and baseball right now. He's creating a crazy formula here. Matt, what's going on, man? You seem unburied from your spreadsheets at the moment.
Temporarily unburied, yes, from both the spreadsheets and from prospect call-ups, but about to be reburied in MLB draft research.
I can't wait till that starts up, and you guys will be able to check all that out at fantasyalarm.com. Our fourth panelist here, you guys know him. He is the CMO of Fantasy Alarm and WagerAlarm.com. He also happens to be one of the hottest hoops handicappers in the business right now. Oh, yeah. Take a bow, Edward Rouse.
Yes, I've been working on my celebration dance all day for this, so I'm ready to go. Let's go.
I'm ready to see a mic flip out of you. Absolutely there. I mean, I don't want you to break your equipment there, but nevertheless, we got a nice little array of topics here to cover for you guys tonight. There's some NBA, there's some DFS, and then, of course, I definitely want to talk about some MLB stuff. There's more of that talk about speeding up, slowing down that game, or anything else that, for some reason, everybody feels the need to change baseball. Maybe I'm stodgy old fart and I want to stay put, but we'll have to see what the panel says. Guys, are you ready to start things off here?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I need to hear some words here, guys. Come on, use your
Let's go.
There it is. There it is. I want to start off with some NBA. And James, since you are the defending Table That Discussion champ here, I'm going to let you lead things off. Sad state of the NBA. I'm not going to lie here. I am not a huge fan of the game of basketball itself. Knowing the fact that I know exactly who's going to win the NBA Finals does not turn me on at all. And even when you're looking at it from a single game aspect, sure, the Kawhi buzzer beater, that was phenomenal. 4 rims. It bounced 4 times on the rim. That was great stuff. But let's face it, we all knew Toronto was going to eventually win that series anyway, and everybody's destined to lose to the Warriors. What is it? What are we going to do here, James, to make NBA more attractive to people?
I mean, I do. And as an NBA fan, it's hard to, think about it. But it is true. Like, there isn't enough parity. There needs to be, I don't know if there needs to be a ban on super teams or what you consider super teams. And I'm not sure how you would go about doing that because there are differing opinions on who's an all-star, who's an, future Hall of Famer, so on and so forth. But maybe we do limit them. As we all know, the Warriors have 5 probably future Hall of Famers on their team in their starting lineup, but obviously 2 of them are hurt currently. But it isn't fun, and I would like to see a ban on super teams. And I don't know if a ban is the right word, just a limit, a cap, so to speak, on how many maybe perennial superstars you can have on one team. And again, obviously, I don't think that can happen. It hasn't happened ever across major sports, but considering there are only 5 players on a field or on a court at a time, maybe that is a possibility going forward in the future.
Edward Rouse, can you limit the number of superstars a team brings in? I mean, what we're looking at right now is this is more like the players are telling the ownership who they want to play with, what they want to do. We'll get to LeBron and the fact that nobody wants to play with him and the state of the Lakers in just a second here. But, I mean, let's face it. Players are going to where they want to go. They're dictating their terms. They're dictating who the coaches are, who the free agents are that everybody brings in. I mean, listen, the Warriors, they beat the Houston Rockets without KD. They didn't need KD. KD is going to sit out the first game of this series upcoming for the conference finals, and nobody cares. Like, nobody cares. So how do we stop this?
Well, statistically, actually, the Warriors have been better without KD on the court. Believe it or not, in the games where he has not been on the court, they have a better winning percentage overall. But besides that, if you look at, I kind of disagree. I think basketball is going in the opposite direction. And also, you could say the same thing with parity in other sports. The Patriots win the Super Bowl almost every year, or being in it every year. Or the Boston and the Dodgers being in the World Series almost every year now. It's kind of not just the NBA that's doing this. Another thing, too, is 3 years ago, 5 games per series, 5.3 last year, and this year we're at 5.5 games per series. Teams are starting to get closer, and the series is starting to go longer. Also, we won Game 7 3 years ago, and we've already had 3 already this year. So I think ultimately it is getting more exciting. And LeBron going to the West, more on that, like you said later, opened up the East to make it more exciting. Who's the king of the East now? Which team? Milwaukee was a 100-1 favorite to even win. They were 15th overall preseason to even win the championship, and now they're probably the hottest team or the best team playing the best so far, I think, in the playoffs. So I think it's going in the right direction, and it has been exciting and fun for me. So I know it's a big free agent year and whatever's going on with the Lakers in the West, but him moving to the West and everything open up, I'm actually enjoying the playoffs.
John and Pemba, is Edward right? Does it really matter that it's going from 5.3 to 5.4 to 5.5? I mean, big deal. We still know the outcome. All right, let's face facts. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what Milwaukee's odds were to win it all. They're not going to win it all. They're not deep enough in order to take down Toronto. And everybody and their grandmother sat there and said, Toronto in the East, Golden State Warriors in the West. That's what's going to happen here. And this is exactly what it's setting up for, John. I mean, this could very well be the most boring thing in the world, that from start to finish, we know exactly who's going to win.
Yep. Well, I mean, we definitely had the Warriors pegged in. And as Ed alluded to there, they have a better winning percentage without KD. That's because they were a team that won a championship without Kevin Durant beforehand. And, James' point about stacking super teams, this wasn't a team that was like brought together by free agents in the Warriors. They drafted Steph Curry, drafted Klay Thompson, drafted Draymond Green, and together that team formulated themselves and became a powerhouse. And attractive to a guy like Kevin Durant, who couldn't get it done in OKC and had to go win a championship by joining them. Because in the West, you're right. It's beat the Golden State Warriors or bust, because there's no team that can really compete with them. There's teams that are coming up. You see the Trailblazers every year maybe make a run with Dame Lillard and McCollum. They acquire pieces with Nurkic coming back and being a big piece there. You have the Denver Nuggets kind of developing, Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic. But still, it goes to the West. It doesn't matter how many players the Rockets acquire. James Harden, I think, is always going to hold them back with the way he plays his style of basketball. But as Ed said, LeBron James going to the West opened up the East. I think that's where some of the parity is coming from. Now you have this year where, free agency is hitting, and you have, rumors of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving teaming up in New York. Well, now they're going to be more competitive if Toronto's able to keep Kawhi Leonard, who said he wants to possibly re-sign. Giannis is going to keep on getting better. So I think we're going to see more parity as the seasons move along. As I said to you, right before we started, there's a bunch of free agents this year. A lot of players are going to be switching teams. We just saw the Pelicans get the #1 overall pick. They're going to have Zion Williamson. Maybe they convince Anthony Davis to stay there now, or they trade Anthony Davis to another team, and now that team becomes more of a contender than they were before. Because it's not like Anthony Davis is going to go to Golden State, I hope, because if that happens, then right, what's the point? But I think the NBA is actually shifting to be a more competitive league as we move towards next season.
Matt Sells, Edward Rouse turned around and said that it's predictable in baseball. It's Red Sox and Dodgers, and we know what it is right there. It's the Yankees. It's the Houston Astros. These teams right now. Is baseball as predictable as the NBA is, or are you feeling that the NBA, you've got maybe 2 or 3 teams who are going to win the whole thing, whereas in baseball you can look at a number of wild card teams who snuck into the playoffs and ended up winning it all?
Well, so I was born in 1986. So we'll start this in 1987, the first year that championships happened that I could theoretically be alive for. In the 31 NBA finals that have happened in that time, 10 different teams have won an NBA final. In the 30 World Series that have happened, because 1994 didn't have one, there have been 18 Major League Baseball teams that have won a World Series. So the NBA has been predictable for 32 years now. It's not a new thing. You knew the Bulls were going to win it in the 90s. You knew the Pistons were going to win it before then. You knew the Knicks were good. You knew the Lakers were good. You knew the Celtics were good going all the way back. So I don't know why it's a big thing now, except that everybody wants to change everything. It's been this way for 32 years. So I don't know that it's going to change. If you want to change it, a couple of things you could look at is maybe not allow more than half the teams in the league to make the playoffs. They're the only professional sport that allows more than half the teams to make the playoffs. The NHL allows 16 of 32, MLB is 10 of 30, NFL is 12 of 32. The NBA is 16 of 30. That's why it's predictable. Half the teams in the East make it with a losing record. Yeah, that's a league. You can't discriminate against the league, and I get the West is good and you can have some very good teams that don't make it, but why does more than half the league make the playoffs? You know who's going to win the first rounds if good teams are playing bad teams.
All right, very interesting point. It's been going on forever. Why are we suddenly jumping all over it? I think we know why we're kind of jumping all over it right now. And James, you're right. It's the super teams. It's the fact that KD goes and he joins up with the Warriors. It's the fact that the Lakers went out and they brought in LeBron. And now it's a matter of who's going to come play with LeBron. Is Kyrie going to come back and play with LeBron? Are they going to recapture that Cleveland magic? But I'll tell you this. I think there are a lot of people who are not only getting sick of these super teams forming and the lack of having that happen, but it's also a big case where players are kind of controlling things a little bit too much right now. And let's face it, when we look at the Lakers right now, Magic stepping down, the hiring of Frank Vogel, Jason Kidd's an assistant, which basically is a placeholder because once Vogel and LeBron butt heads at one point, LeBron's going to have his way. But here's the issue. What's going to happen in LA when nobody wants to come play with LeBron? And are we actually going to, or if we are seeing things like Edward says, where there's more parity, like Matt says, this has been going on for years and years. And is there going to be some sort of a change here moving forward where there is going to be some sort of a backlash and guys like LeBron, people are going to be like, F you, dude, we're sick of this. We're sick of you controlling everything and we're going to go play where we want to play. I don't know, James, what do you think?
I think as much as people don't want to play with LeBron, it all comes full circle back to the fact that nobody wants to match up with the Warriors in the playoffs. LeBron did it to himself. If he stays in the Eastern Conference, then maybe there is a chance you play with LeBron more because, again, who was the king of the Eastern Conference for the last 15 seasons? I mean, it's been LeBron. Now you have to go to the West. You're not only taking down the Warriors because nobody can. The Houston Rockets have won 50 games back-to-back years. They've been very strong contenders. You have an upcoming Nuggets team. I mean, nobody wants to go out West because nobody wants to go with the Lakers because nobody wants to play the teams in the West. I would want to play with LeBron considering how good of a passer, playmaker he is. So also there is a factor though, this Hollywood thing, because now he's an executive producer of a show on HBO. He's an executive producer on all these movies, Space Jam. He has a Space Jam coming out. Maybe that's another reason people don't want to play LeBron. So I think there's a side to both coins. One is you don't want to play with LeBron because he went to LA to pursue an acting career. The second is you don't want to go play with LeBron because nobody wants to play the Warriors. So I think there are two sides to that coin. And ultimately, it's nobody playing with LeBron, kind of like you alluded to, Howard. So I kind of agree. I don't think he's going to attract many of the top free agents available until he retires, honestly.
Edward Rouse, what do you think it's more of? You think more that it's everybody's afraid? Everybody's a chicken? They don't want to lose to the Warriors, or they just don't want to sit in LeBron's shadow?
I think it's neither. I think it's the fact that it's the Lakers. We got to look at them. 3 GMs in 3 years. Vogel has 3 losing seasons in his last 4. He's not that great of a coach. To me, it's like they just rehired Byron Scott. They've been terrible with their draft picks, in my opinion. If you look at the picks who have gone right after some of the picks that they've taken, they've been better players already in the NBA. Do the Lakers really excite people anymore? They haven't won since, 2013? I mean,
so you're saying nobody wants to play for the Lakers. Nobody wants to play in a major media market. Nobody wants to play on a team that has a history steeped in tradition and championships. Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant. Nobody wants to go play there, or nobody wants to play for the Lakers here, or nobody wants to play for LeBron. That's the question here on the table. John and Pemba, is everybody afraid to lose to the Warriors, or does nobody want to play with LeBron?
So I'm not too sure the Warriors are going to be. There are a lot of rumors that Klay Thompson wants to leave for a bigger role. Draymond Green, and he's had his issues. We think Kevin Durant could be leaving. Next year, the Warriors may not be the Warriors that we've seen in the recent years. So I'm not sure how intimidating they'll be this upcoming offseason if those moves end up happening. I think LeBron is difficult to play with. A lot of people have said that. That Kyrie Irving bolted because he couldn't handle dealing with LeBron. Of course, now he wants to run back to him because he can't win without him. But I don't necessarily know if it's the fact that teams are afraid of the Warriors. I think, like you said, I think it's mostly LeBron's gonna be difficult. LeBron's gonna be the one running the team. And why would a guy like Kawhi Leonard, who's in the prime of his career, want to go and play with LeBron James and be under his thumb and not get the recognition that he deserves, or somebody else like Anthony Davis going there and being under LeBron and having to deal with all the drama that follows him and all the pettiness that he can sometimes be with. Passive aggressiveness that he plays with in the media. And like Edward said, it's also just kind of a shit show over there. They have, multiple coaches. All these coaches are just placeholders. That's all they are. It's LeBron's team. We know that. I'm surprised that Jason Kidd would be a LeBron pick because I feel like they might butt heads a little bit. Kidd seems like someone that would sort of, demand sort of more of a headstrong role there as a coach. So no, I don't think it has anything to do with being the actual Lakers. I think it's LeBron being there. I don't think it has anything to do with the Warriors because I'm not sure how much longer the Warriors are going to be together as they are right now.
All right, so it's more the LeBron situation than less than the fear of the Warriors. Matt Sells, chime in here. Chicken or beef? Are they chicken to face the Warriors, or they got beef with LeBron?
I think it's the fact that you can put up with LeBron if you're in the Eastern Conference, knowing that you have a ticket punched to the finals and have a shot to win a ring, and you can put up with all the nonsense that comes with, because remember how many coaches they went through in his time in Cleveland and how tumultuous that front office was in Cleveland. The only thing that held them together was the fact that they were basically guaranteed a shot at the championship every year because nobody in the East was matching up with him. Now he goes to the West. He was also hurt basically the entire year last year. So who knows if that's a fluke or if that's aging, because he has, I think, the most minutes on his body of anybody at this point in their NBA career ever. So maybe it's catching up with him. So if you go and play with LeBron and then he's not on the floor, then you've signed on to a bad Lakers team with a bunch of crap happening in the front office. The front office was sniping Magic Johnson behind his back, according to the emails that leaked out and whatnot. So now you're dealing with all that. You don't even have LeBron on the court with you. So now you've got to carry a team by yourself, and you've got to deal with a stacked Western Conference that, yeah, even if the Warriors aren't good, you've still got the Trailblazers and the Nuggets and the Rockets and the Thunder are always pretty decent. So you've got like 4 or 5 teams that compete. Why put up with that and still possibly not even have LeBron there with you?
All right, listen, the 4 of you are giving me some fantastic information. Oh, James Grinded, what's up, buddy? What do you want to say?
I have 2 points. One, the pettiness comment that John made about Anthony Davis. I mean, who's more petty than Anthony Davis? So I don't think pettiness would come into play about like wanting to play with LeBron. Anthony Davis was the most petty NBA player all year. That's including LeBron James in the same NBA. And the second point, to Edward about Frank Vogel being a bad coach, he coached a Magic team with an underperforming Victor Oladipo who wasn't Victor Oladipo. That was like a shell of what he could be. Plus, Nikola Vucevic wasn't anywhere close, hadn't been an all-star until this year. He was put in a really bad situation. Prior to that, in his Indiana days, he was playing against LeBron in Cleveland with Kyrie. He was playing against the Bulls and Thibodeau and Rose, winning 50-plus games a year. And he was still making the playoffs with Paul George and a bunch of outcasts, essentially. So I think that Frank Vogel is a good coach in the right situation. I think when you coach a 20-win Magic team and you're just put the talent surrounding you is what they are, you're not going to win many games. In an NBA that, again, comes back, is kind of predictable. You're not going to beat the best teams with a bad team. So I think the 2 points that I just wanted to get out there after listening.
All right, listen, I'm okay with that. That's what this is all about. It's all about discourse and discussion. Edward, do you wanna come back at him about Frank Vogel? Are you Frank Vogel's just the anti-Frank Vogel here? What's up?
I just don't think he's a good coach. I mean, yeah, early in his career, he had some success at Indiana, but his last 2 years at Indiana, he didn't have success. And didn't the Orlando Magic, they made the playoffs this year, right? So the next year without him. So I'm not a fan. LeBron's the coach there. Everyone knows that.
And there you go right now. He's a puppet. He's nothing more than a puppet. His record has nothing to do with it whatsoever. All right, guys, there you go. We're going to table that discussion here. I got to tell you, man, John and Pemba, I'm giving you 2 alarms on that one there for some points you made. Edward, you also get 2. James, you had 2. You came back with those extra points. I'm giving you 3 fires right now. But the leader out of this one here, Matt Sells, bringing the heat right from the get-go. 4-alarm fire with his piss and vinegar here about it's been 32 years. What the hell are you bitching about it now for, Bender? Matt Sells wins that round here. We move on. We table that discussion. And now we move ahead to, well, what I would love to talk about here in the wonderful world of the DFS community. I'll say it, people. I think the pricing sucks. I think that the fantasy sites, the daily fantasy sites, DraftKings, FanDuel, I think they're skewing these prices to make it next to impossible to pay up for some pitching and still get some quality bats, or to pay up for your hitting and still get some high-quality pitching in there. There is no happy medium. There is no in-between. And what that does is that caters to those who put in 10 to 20 lineups a night, not the guys like you or me who put in 1 or 2 lineups in a night and just want to have a couple of games to play there. You just can't do it. If you want to play Chris Sale, you can't put JD Martinez into your lineup. If you want to use Wade Miley, okay, great. But he's Wade frickin' Miley, and I don't care what he's done recently. He's still Wade Miley. Matt Sells, you're in the lead right now with 4. Talk to me here, man. The DFS pricing. Is this just going to be the end of the casual DFS player and then we're all going to just go to the sports book? Or is there some help here?
I mean, it might be the end because I did the Heart of the Order video today at Fantasy Alarm on Wednesday, and Justin Verlander was ridiculously priced higher than any other pitcher on the slate. Yes, it was an 8-game slate, so it's a shorter slate, but he was $11,000 on DraftKings and $12K on FanDuel, and Corbin was the next highest on FanDuel at $9,600. That's literally a bat on FanDuel. That's the difference between them. I mean, you can get a bat, not a great one, but you can find value bats for $2,400. So yes, that will definitely hurt the casual DFS player. I've noticed it in other sports too, most specifically NASCAR, as I write every week. The mid-tier options in NASCAR have been obliterated since the start of just this season. You can't find value plays very easily at all, and you used to be able to do it even last year or the beginning of this year. So even as a guy who writes about the sport on a weekly basis, I'm finding you got to play more than like 10 lineups to get all the guys you want.
Yeah, it's catering to the multi-lineup player here and the casual fan. James, talk to me, man. The casual fan. Is he dead in the water? Is it dead money? Are you wasting your time playing DFS right now because you've got the deck stacked against you?
I mean, I think there are ways to build your bankroll, Howard, personally. Like, obviously everyone wants to hit the the jackpot, and the jackpot is the $10, $200,000 entry tournament. And we know the guys that are winning them. They have 150 entries in every lineup, and I get that. But I do think DraftKings and FanDuel and these sites have done a good job of making beginner contests. They've weeded out guys that have large profits in DFS. The pricing sucks, but I think if you're in a beginner pool, you're in a beginner pool with everyone. So everyone in that pool is having trouble making lineups. It's not just going to be, you. I do think, there is something to be said when you're entering the smaller cash game tournaments, $2, $3, $4, build your bankroll, then enter in single entries. If you don't feel comfortable entering in, it's kind of a process and it's a strategy. Nobody's just going to enter one lineup and hit it big. I think there is a strategy behind it. They're doing a bad job. I'll say it. DraftKings pricing is definitely more difficult to build, especially in MLB. I prefer playing DraftKings normally. That's generally been but lately I've actually been playing FanDuel. Why? Because I feel more comfortable just building lineups, and like you said, I don't have to worry about passing on JD Martinez and putting in Young Ho Dong because I didn't have the money to get JD over on DraftKings. So I think there are ways for the casual player, the beginner contest, the 50-50s and stuff like that, but you aren't going to hit the 100K jackpot, which everyone's after.
I'm not looking to hit that 100K jackpot here, John and Pemba. I don't care about the 100K jackpot. I don't care about the million maker because you know what? I know that I'm not going to do it because the deck is stacked against me here. Beginner contest, who cares? You're all still in the same boat here, and the cream is going to rise to the top. And I mean, when I say cream, I'm talking about the guys who are going to spend multiple lineups. Yes, single entry, that's fine. That's great. And it's a little bit more of a level playing field. It doesn't change the fact that the pricing absolutely sucks, John.
Yep. I mean, I think the one thing that you can use to maybe counter pricing now is in something that we talk a lot about, it's ownership. If you can understand where the higher owned players are, if you can understand the projected ownership that we put out on Fantasy Alarm, you can now tailor your lineups so at least you're playing some of that chalk. You know who most people are putting in their lineups, so you're not feeling like you can't afford players. You go ahead and you find the players that a lot of people are on. You kind of put them in your lineup so you're not behind the eight ball where a lot of these guys who have to build 150 lineups, they can go ahead and really be contrarian and whatnot, but at least you're not too far behind the public. For me, I like to play a lot of chalk. I play it fairly safe. Occasionally I'll go ahead and, build smaller guys around them. Like tonight, contest I'm in over on DraftKings, I have Verlander in my lineup. He's 50% owned in that contest. So paid up for him, half the tournament paid up for him. So nice like this, if you don't have Verlander and everybody else paid up, well, now you missed out. So I think understanding ownership percentages will help you even the playing field a little bit more than just, boo-hooing the pricing because, I can't fit all these guys in there. It's like, well, nobody can fit all these guys in here. Figure out who the majority of them are playing, put those guys in your lineup, and then it could be different elsewhere. So that's how I kind of attack the ownership and the pricing differences there.
Edward, is that the way to do it? You attack through ownership percentage. You look at, say, okay, well, if everybody's using Justin Verlander in tonight's contest and paying up for him, well, now I got to see what schmucks everybody else is using there. Oh, Cole Tucker. Yeah, let me get him into my lineup here. He's hot trash, but everybody else seems to think he's the same hot trash. Like, that's the problem here is that where is your research happening? Are you researching actual players and looking at stats and looking at matchups? Or are you now just saying, you know what, screw it, let me go to the ownership percentages here and I'm going to go with the grain when it comes to cash lineups. I'm going against the grain when it comes to GPP.
I mean, that's an easy way to go about it. And it has shown to be successful doing something like that. And if everyone hits like everyone thinks, you just got to have that one person that they don't. And you're pretty much safe in a cash game. I like to personally look at lineups when they come out, do my research. I'm a BVP believer after a certain point. You have to have at least a minimum of 20 at bats. And I like to look at the stats, lefty versus righty, of course, for cash games. Then I go contrarian against it in my tournament.
But you're looking at all these numbers, Edward, and you're like, oh, this is great. This is great. This is great. Oh, look, I can't fit this freaking guy into my lineup.
Exactly.
Ever. So
Yeah,
it doesn't even matter what his BVP is because you can't afford him anyway.
So I've already done all that research. Now I'm looking at it going, wow, I can't even get this guy in my lineup. And you're right, they are making it a little bit more difficult for single entry and more tailored towards people who put in a ton of lineups. But you got to look at how do they make their money? Make their money off people who put in a ton of lineups. And then you got to look at the marketing, like James mentioned, all the beginners tournaments. Do they market those? No. When you log in, the first thing you see is big entry, multi-entry tournaments, number one featured, boom. They don't feature those at all. So it's their marketing, knowing how to make the money. They're a business after all, and tailoring to that. I think that's what the issue is with the.
There you go. You know what? I'm just tabling this discussion because I'm getting all hot under the collar and I'm getting ticked off about it. I'm awarding one fire alarm, and that's going to Edward Rouse here. Why? Because he said it right off the bat. The DFS sites don't care as long as they're making their money. If they're making their money off of multi-lineup people, then guess what? That's who they're catering to, and everybody else can suck it. What a bummer, but all right. Move me over to the sports book. I'm more than happy to play money lines and point spreads anyway. Tabling that discussion here, moving to the final one for the night, and that is the concept of robo-umps. Are you kidding me? Robo-umps? Like that, I can't think of it's gonna make the strike zone more accurate. It's gonna speed up the game. It's gonna do all sorts of great things for baseball. I think it's trash. I think it's garbage. I don't agree with robo-umps here. I think it's going to cause many, many, many more problems, especially because everybody's strike zone is different. Why? Because it goes from the knee to the chest, all right? It's not, Jose Altuve's strike zone does not look a thing like Aaron Judge's strike zone. Are the robo-umps going to pick up on all of that? Matt Sells, you're still in the lead here. Close behind, I got Edward Rouse and James Grande. Oh, Johnny Pemble, you were just sitting there in last place. You better bring the heat, buddy. Robo-umps, Matt Sells, yes or no?
Well, since I'm the one that proposed this topic, I'm clearly in favor of it.
All right, well, you just went -1 because you said that I didn't think of this topic on my own.
That's fine. I'll build it back up.
Boom.
Eric Burns, a couple of seasons ago on Real Sports on HBO, did a whole thing about robo-umps where they literally did a minor league baseball game with an umpire behind home plate that had an earpiece in his ear and was told which is a ball and which is a strike. And they had the strike zone different for every single batter because they had it preloaded and can just switch it every single time a batter comes up, and it's not even a problem. The issue is everybody on the planet knows what a strike is when they're watching a game. Because every TV broadcast has the K zone up. Everything on MLB at Bat has the K zone up. Your Apple Watch has the K zone. Every computer, tablet, phone. And so every single night you see these guys miss a massive amount of pitches. And yeah, we know the human element. Well, the human element has been wrong a ton of times. That's why they put replay in to call guys out on the base paths, to call home runs properly, to call balls fair or foul. Now in the NFL to call fouls properly because they screwed up a Super Bowl because of it. So yeah, if we have technology to do it, we should do it because it's physically possible to be done. They do it in real time in tennis too with the same technology they're using for this, and they don't ever miss a call in tennis. So it can be done. I don't want to hear that balls move too quickly and whatever. Cameras move really, really fast. They can catch these things because TV cameras, which aren't even as good as the ones that they use for this technology, catch them and they know where the strike zone is. It's just too many games are ruined because guys are getting struck out on balls that literally have no business being called strikes ever. Were never considered strikes, not even in the dead ball era. And now it's affecting late season, regular season games. It's affecting playoff games. Just get rid of these umps that think they rule the world and can't be fired or told what to do.
Oh, I think the umpires union's going to have a big issue with that. Edward Rouse, robo-umps? Come on, really? What are you going to do? You're going to take the guy behind the plate? He's just going to listen to the earpiece? What's his role there then? Calling somebody safe or out when it comes to the to a play at the plate? Is that really what we're designating umps for here? Why even have them?
Yeah, I'm against the robo-ump completely. I mean, first of all, why they have superhero names? Trackman, Hawkeye. What are they trying to save the day with these robo-umps? I don't think so. and it's going to go to the ear. But I hear when they test it, it's going to go to the ear, and the ump can still overturn it if they want. What's the point of that? How are you going to test that properly if that's the case? Don't like it. And here's the thing. And actually, the University of Boston, or Boston University, did a study last year. 34,000 missed ball and strikes calls last year, 14 per game, right? However, in 2008, a 16.4% missed calls, only 9.2% last year. So it's actually gotten better. Of the top umpires, the average age who missed the least amount of calls was 37 years old. The bottom 10 who averaged the most amount of missed calls, 56 years old. And who got the World Series and the playoffs? The older umpires who are missing more calls, which tells me the MLB is doing a good job of their younger umpires calling strikes at a better rate and a terrible job of rewarding them to call the games that matter.
Very impressive. Good, solid argument here.
Have R2D2s calling fouls in NBA games. I mean, come on, what's a foul there?
John and Pemba. So is Joe West ruining the game here? Is that what we're at? Should umpires get up to a certain age limit and we just say, you know what? Once these guys hit the age of 50, then they're done. You got to retire them, send them down somewhere let them handle the minors.
Yeah, I was at a Red Sox game. I think it was last year. It was a cold, rainy night. Joe West was behind the plate, and it seemed like he just wanted to go home. He was calling everything strikes. I think he was cold. He wanted to leave. It was incredible. I was there with my friends. We're like, I can't. Like, how are they calling these? Both benches were upset. The strike zone had to be like 8 feet wide. It didn't matter. I'm actually for the robo stuff. I understand you said that the earpiece can still have the guy there to call the balls and strikes. When this was first presented way back in the day, it used to be like there was almost going to be like the balls and strikes clock on the wall, and then when it hit strike, it would light up as a strike and have a buzzer and all these things. So you take out the human element out of it completely. I don't see a reason why they need to be calling balls and strikes. They get too much into the emotion of games sometimes. They get caught up with the crowd. Maybe they don't like the player that's at the plate. Maybe they hate the pitcher, hate the catcher. All these things can go into changing the outcome of a game of what is actually a strike or actually a ball. So for me, get them out of there. Have them call just safer out, and then we can go review that too, because they half time don't get those right either. And just go computerize. The technology is there for a reason. Like Matt says, we need to be using it. My McDonald's now got rid of the cashiers. I can go right to a screen, pick what I want. They make my sandwich for me correctly. It doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about it anymore. So all about technology for me. Let the AI, let the robots take over. It's going to happen eventually.
All right, James Grande, your thoughts here? Are we just turning it to AI and leave it at that and just say, just ditch the umps altogether? We're done with them.
I didn't know you could figure out if a ball or a strike was or a Big Mac. I didn't know that was all on the same menu, and I didn't know tennis there were ball or strikes either. I guess I must have missed that. I don't watch that sport too often, Matt. But in that same study, Edward, it's funny you brought that up. The progression of called strikes have gotten better. Incorrect calls. 10 years ago, it was at 38%. The called strike three was being called incorrectly, and last year it was down to 21%. So as Edward said, as these umpires are getting younger and we're bringing in new, I kind of envision the older umpires as we should do older people in road tests. You get to a certain age and you should have to retake your road test. I mean, the umpires should kind of do the same thing. If you maybe do a simulated game, maybe with the robot umps, you do a simulated game with these older umpires who are struggling to call strikes correctly. You have a pitcher throw 100 pitches, and if they get a certain percentage wrong, then hey, you've done a great job. You can collect your 401k, you can collect your pension, but we're going to go with the younger umpire. I'm not for robo-umps. The human element, it's baseball. This is not it's not a gimmick. It's baseball. And as much as, robo-umps, how can they predict a 12-6 curveball that maybe crosses at the knees but lands in the dirt? Are you going to call that a strike? Because from where we're sitting in the stands, we would complain about something like that. And we would say, well, how can somebody call that a strike? But it crossed at the knees, and the robo-ump's not going to call that a ball. So I definitely have a problem with that aspect. Maybe if they came out with a solution hey, it crossed at the knees and whatever, but I don't have a solution for that, so I'm not for it. Yeah, those are my opinions.
You were just about to take the lead with some fire and heat there, but then you didn't have a solution for us at all. So I guess that's Matt Sells. He wants to chime in, wants to throw an elbow over to James Grande's way for insulting his tennis analogy. Go ahead, Matt.
So first of all, in a study done by the Harvard professor on the Real Sports episode, they also concluded that umps call balls and strikes more improperly in favor of the home team in pressure situations than the away team. So now in the playoffs, we're screwing the road team because the human element gets caught up in the emotion of the situation. Also, the rule book says it's a strike where it crosses the plate, not where it lands. So yeah, a 12-6 curveball that crosses the plate at the knees is a strike. And if you have an issue with it, then it's in the rule book. That's how you solve that problem. It's the rules. So this whole, well, it's a human element. Well, we took a human element out of the home run call. We took a human element out of the safer out call. We took the human element out of the fair or foul call. We took the human element out of basically everything else in this game, except for arguably the most important part of it, which determines the entire rest of the outcome of the game, which is balls and strikes. So that's how you get around it.
I'm going to throw out a cross sport here thing. Matt, you just said it. The home team gets the calls. The road team doesn't. It screws over the road team. So now all of a sudden we're talking about robo-refs in the NBA. Is that even something possible to happen? Because let's face it, if there's one sport where everybody complains that the home team gets the calls, it's definitely in the NBA, and we're dealing with a whole mess right there. So can we go full robo? I got to tell you, some good arguments for, some good argument. Don't shake your head at me, Matt Sells. I see that in the corner.
You can't go full robo in the NBA.
You never go full robo. You never do. Anybody see Tropic Thunder? You never go full robo.
Damn it, I was going to say it.
All right. Well, listen, I think great ground covered here by everybody. By my calculations here, the winner today, believe it or not, it's Edward Rouse. Matt Sells, your piss and vinegar just lost it at the very tail end. You just got edged out. Edward Rouse.
That's because you're like Joe West.
Oh, see, there you go. Now you just lost 2. There you go. So Edward Rouse, you finish up with a total of 5. You are on fire. You get to lead off the next one there. John Impemba sneaks in with 3. James Grande 3. Matt Sells for the Joe West call. Big old goose egg. That's going to do it for us here at Table That Discussion. We'll catch up with you guys next week. On behalf of my illustrious panel here, I'm Howard Bender. This has been Fantasy Alarm TV. We'll catch you next time.